endless interjections. The member for Port Adelaide.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. How can the member for Hughes possibly remain the chair of the Coalition Committee on the Environment and Energy when he's promoting a position which undermines the central plank of the Prime Minister's policy on climate change? Will the Prime Minister now sack the member for Hughes from this position, or is the Prime Minister preparing for yet another backflip on climate change policy?
The member for Latrobe will cease interjecting. The Prime Minister has the call.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member's question seems to overlook a salient fact, which is that the government has today ratified the Paris Agreement. That's the fact. That is the fact. And, Mr. Speaker, the significance of that and the importance of that agreement is one which I'll invite the minister to now address.
Thank you.
No, the member for Port Adelaide will resume his seat. The member for Port Adelaide will resume his seat. What's occurred is perfectly in order. There's extensive practice on it. If he wishes to argue with me, he can do so after question time. The minister has the call.
Mr. Speaker, well, as the Prime Minister said, we have ratified the Paris Agreement, which will lead Australia to reduce its emissions by 26 to 28% by 2030 on 2005 levels. And we are doing it with effective policy mechanisms, like the Emissions Reduction Fund, which its cost per tonne of abatement has been at $12.10, our renewable energy target, as well as our National Energy Productivity Plan. But the gall of the member for Port Adelaide, who comes from the state of South Australia, to get up at this dispatch box when he's not worried about the fact that his state went into the black. He's not worried about whether the state went into the black. He's not worried about the state who has the highest electricity prices in the national electricity market. This is what the South Australian Council of Social Services said. We have the highest electricity prices in the nation in South Australia, and we have the highest unemployment in South Australia, and that's no coincidence, Mr. Speaker. The Labor Party should know. The Labor Party should know that it's ideological.
The minister will resume his seat. The member for Port Adelaide has already risen to try and take a point of order. I hope you know which one it is. Can you state it?
Relevance. I asked about the suitability of the member for Hughes as the chair of the Coalition Committee on the Environment and Energy.
The member for Port Adelaide will resume his seat. I listened very close. The Minister for Transport and Infrastructure is warned. The minister has the call.
The member for Port Adelaide, in the member for Port Adelaide's own words, wants to kick-start the closure of coal-fired power stations. Now, this will only send electricity prices up and will reintroduce issues about the stability of the system. Now, yesterday we heard from Graham Richardson, and we should remind the House of what he said about the Labor's 50% renewable target. The farce of this policy has become obvious to all. Labor has no plan on how this target would be reached. And then I want to, Mr. Speaker, add the words of Tony Marr, the national president of the CFMEU, who wrote to all the members opposite in 2015, and he said about the Leader of the Opposition's 50% target, and I quote, "An increased renewable energy target of 50% by 2030 will increase the cost of electricity for manufacturing and ordinary households while being a poor tool to reduce Australia's overall global warming emissions." Mr. Speaker, only the Coalition can introduce energy efficiency, energy security,
the member's time has expired.